So this is an introductory video for Joseph Chamberlain College about how you would go about using Google Classroom. Because it's based around Google, it's really nice and straightforward, but it is going to depend on how much time you've spent on things like Google Drive. But I can genuinely say it's really, really intuitive. So the screen that you can see here is my Google Classrooms that I've already got set up. So if I wanted to set up a new one, the first thing that you've got to do is make sure that you are logged in with your JC account. As you can see, when I click on that little circle, it'll have your initial in it. It's got my JC address. Obviously, you can set these up with your own Google account, but that will make sharing it with students difficult. So just make sure, first things first, that you're in your JC account. It's also important when students are using this that they're using their JC account as well. So if you wanted to set up a new classroom, you click this little button here, the little plus symbol, and you can either join a class or you can create a class. So let's create a class, which we are going to call example. You can set it up with sections and subjects and rooms and all of this sort of business, but we're just going to call it example. So let's create that. Takes a couple of seconds just to process. Because I have so many classrooms, it takes a little while. So this is your classroom. You can change and rejig all sorts of things if you want a different background and things like that. The stream is what your students see first of all, and you can do things like you can make an announcement, and you can share it with different students. So you might just want to say, hello world, this is your Google Classroom. And that, if you just click post, that will go out to all of them, all of your students straight away. We'll have a look in a moment about how you would go about adding students and how they can go about adding themselves. But a really neat trick that I want to introduce you to now is the schedule button. So maybe you don't want it to go out straight away. Maybe you want it to go out first thing tomorrow morning so that everybody gets it at the same time, so that it's nice and regimented. And you can click schedule, and that will go out to your students tomorrow. In terms of the way that you give them tasks to do, you go into classwork. That's where all of your classwork is. And you click create. Now, when you do this, and I will show you this in a moment, there's all sorts of different things that you can do. I want to just start with an assignment. So you can give it a title. That's obviously what's going to come up first. You can give it some instructions. Do this quickly. I don't know. And you can, the title is what they see first. So it is helpful if it's something that's instantly going to be for them to go, all right, okay, I see what to do with that. So application of non-fatal offences, or whatever it might be. If we look at this side for a moment, you can give it you can say that it's unmarked, but then you've got no way to send anything back to them. So I would suggest that you choose how many marks you want to give it. So let's say 10. You have to be a bit careful with that because sometimes it goes back to unmarked. Sometimes it adds in zeros. It's not unusual for me to set an assignment that's out of 10,010. So you do have to adjust that. You can give it a due date. I would suggest that you do, because for your organisation a little later on, that makes things nice and simple. So let's say that it's due on the 2nd of June at 4:15. And you can create a topic, and I really suggest that you create a topic. So this is the category that it's going to go under. Have a think about those, and I would really advise you to do that as you go along. Take it from somebody who's done it thinking, I'll do that later, I'll do that later. It's really awkward if you don't. So let's call it non-fatal offences. So you're then so this is sort of the bare bones of your task, but you need to actually give them something to do. So you've got a few options here. The most logical way to do it is to grab something that you've already pre-prepared from your Google Drive. So let's do that. So this is taking me into my Google Drive. So these are real student work that you can see there. So obviously, please be careful about sharing this video outside of JC. I'm just going to find something random. So let's grab that. Criticisms and evaluation of non-fatal offences. So the most important thing for you to do now is on this here. It's very important that you grab a Google Docs rather than, let me see if I can show you. Probably can't actually. The ones that have got these squares are Google Docs, and they can be manipulated by the students in Google Classroom. What you want to avoid doing is having anything which is not a Google Doc. So if you have something that ends with docx for, here we go. So if it's got the W like that, rather than the square with the lines across, that is a Word document and it can't be manipulated in Google Classroom. So it's really important that you've got a Google Doc. The next most important thing, and I would say that I make this mistake 2 or 3 times a week, you need to decide what you want the students to be able to do with it. If you click students, so we're in this drop-down menu here. If you click students can view the file, students can only view it. If they want to manipulate their own copy, they will click on a link that says request access. It will email you, and then you will have to email them back and decide whether or not you want to let them. What will happen if you say students can view the file and they're supposed to manipulate it is that you will get an email from every single one of them, and it's very annoying. If you click students can edit the file, that means that they all edit the one document, and it's chaos. I'm not a big fan of that. So the one that you want is make a copy for each student. And what you will end up with if you do that, what you will end up with when you do that is that you will end up with a folder set up in your Google Drive, which you can click through to, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So you'll have that in your Google Drive for each student, and they'll each have their own copy, and that's really, really neat. So once you've decided that it's going to the right people, it's got the right number of points, it's going out on the right day, it's in the right topic, that you've made one for each student, it's the right document, etc. Again, you can choose to assign it, and that will send it out now, and they can start working on it immediately. Alternatively, you can just save it, or you can schedule it to go out at a particular time. So let's say that that's going to go out at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So let's schedule that. And you can see that it says that it's scheduled for tomorrow. So I was saying before about where you can go back and find these things. If you click on that, I did that a bit quick. If you click on Class Drive folder, then it will open it up for you there. But that's something that you can have a look at in a bit. Once you've set up your classroom, once you've got a feel for adding tasks, there are other things that you can do. Quiz assignments, that will take you through to Google Forms, and I'm going to do a whole video on how you go about doing that. But simply put, you can set up a form which they can fill in, and you can have multiple choice questions, longer questions, all sorts of things. Other things that you can do if you wanted to, you can pose them a question, what is your name? And again, you can go through, do all the proper things, which I'm not going to do today. So make sure it's at the right number of points. Make sure it's in the right topic. Oops. Right topic. Non-fatal offences. You can schedule it, all this, that, and the other. And you ask that. And then they will, when they click on that, they will just be able to fill it in. I'll show you how that looks for them in a second. You can just post a material. So if you just wanted them to have a look at a YouTube video, for example, you can use this and they can just have a look at a YouTube video. It takes a little bit of time for those things to come through. Video. And you can do all the same things as before. You can set it in a topic. You can schedule it to go later. You can save it as a draft, or you can just post it now. So that'll go off to them. So anything that's grayed out like this are things that are either a draft or scheduled for later on, and it tells you where it's scheduled, when it's scheduled for. The things that are the colour, so the colour will be determined by the colour palette that you choose. It's very snazzy like that. That shows you that those are live things that the students can see. So if we have a look now at the stream, so we've gone back to stream here, this is what your students will see. So they've been asked to log on to this Google Classroom, they've had an email, and these are the things that they're going to have a look at. So they'll be able to go on and go, oh look, Sarah has sent me a video, I will watch that in a moment. Or alternatively, they can click on to this. So this is their question. Now, because I'm set as the teacher, this says class comments, and that will go out to all of them. What they will get here-ish is an individual answer. It just says answer, and they can fill it in, send it back to you, and that will just come back to you. So that, broadly speaking, is how your Google Classroom will operate. In terms of how you add students, you've got two ways of doing this. You can send your students this class code. It's a different class code for each classroom. And they can put that in and they will come to this. And all they have to do is put this URL in, classroom.google.com, on any web browser, on their phone, on their laptop, anything like that. Log in with their JC account and put this classroom code in. You can make it a bit bigger and even bigger still by clicking on that. And that will take them there. So they don't have to be on a college laptop or anything like that. Now that's great, but we know students, some of them will do it instantly and do it properly, some of them won't. So what you can do, if you click on people, is that you can invite students. And if you go onto your registers, you can get their student ID numbers, and you can go through and do each one. As long as you've got a copied and pasted list that looks like that, so X 2 3 4 5 6, X 3 4 5 6 7, that will invite each one of those students. You click invite, which I can't because they're not real students, and it will email it out to them. And when they come to this page, log in with their JC account, what they will find is that they're already in there and they're already set up, ready to go. So I would really, really strongly advise you to do that. It takes a little bit longer than just emailing it out to them and saying, please join this, but you know it's done properly if you've done it yourself. The other thing that's worth doing at this stage, when you're at the setup stage, is adding another teacher to your Google Classroom, so that if your leg falls off and you are not able to do your job for whatever reason, you lose the internet at home or something like that, then somebody else could pop on and just do the bits and bobs that were needed for that particular day. And that is really, really, really simple. Um, so um, let's do what I always do, which is add Alia Fiaz. And I'm not going to actually invite her because she'll wonder what the heck this is. I click invite, and then she will have access in exactly the same way as I do. So as I say, it's really, really easy. It takes a little bit of time for getting used to it, and it's worth spending the proper time setting up, importing your students through the People tab, setting up your topics, and setting up a few bits of classwork so that students have got some things to be really cracking on with. I'm going to leave this video here now, and then I'm going to do a separate one looking at a setup classroom with students in it, a real live one, so that we can have a look at how the quizzes work, and we can have a look at how you would go about monitoring student progress, making sure people are doing what they're doing. Thank you very much for your attention. And